everyone. Welcome to our 2025 SMART Centre Symposium. My name is Jeff Dukes. I'm the director of the SMART Centre here at Conestoga College, which is downstairs. We've got about 13,000 square feet of research space, which will be open for tours later today when we're all done. Happy to walk around. We'll have a number of our staff here to do that. On behalf of the SMART Centre and Conestoga College, I'd like to welcome you to the 4th Annual Conestoga SMART Centre Research Symposium. We appreciate your time and energy you bring to today's event. I'd like to start today's event with the land acknowledgement. At Conestoga College, we acknowledge that in Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and Brantford, we are located on the Haldimand Tract, land promised to the Haudenosaunee people of 6 nations, which includes 6 miles on either side of the Grand River. This is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and neutral peoples. I make this acknowledgement as an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those whose territory on which we reside, and as a way of honoring Indigenous people who have been stewards of this land for generations. We are grateful for the opportunity to live, learn, and work on this land, and we honor the enduring presence and contributions of Indigenous people to our shared history. As we come together today to celebrate creativity and collaboration, we also acknowledge the histories of colonization, displacement, and the ongoing struggles faced by Indigenous communities, and we commit to learn about and celebrating the history and contributions of Indigenous people to knowledge, scholarship, and innovation. So here at the SMART Centre, research is about pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Our team of innovators, problem solvers, and industry experts are driven by a shared passion to make a meaningful impact on our society. By collaborating with industry and community partners, we are able to create new solutions that have a lasting influence on our community, and we are proud to be a leader in research. When we engage with our community through research projects, we build relationships and partnerships that further drive growth and innovation in the Waterloo region and beyond. By addressing the real-world challenges of our local industry and community partners, we can continue to build the workforce for tomorrow. The SMART Centre is one of 60 NSERC-funded technology access centres across Canada that is the focus of helping companies adopt and commercialize innovative technologies and tools to drive innovation in Canada. The need for this has never been more present than in the past several months, as we've all got to witness and enjoy. Our applied research and technical service projects are led by our team of skilled full-time researchers, and actually now I'm going to have all the SMART Centre staff just put their hands up so that as you look around, there'll be a number of them around. If you have questions today, find one of them and they'll be happy to answer them. Led by a team of skilled full-time research staff who engage with faculty and Conestoga College co-op students to solve real-world problems for our industry partners. In fact, we're the largest employer of co-op students at the college, and we hire about 120 to 150 co-op students per year. The SMART Centre has expertise and infrastructure to conduct research in many areas, from automation and electronics development to artificial intelligence and virtual reality, and just about everything in between. You'll have a chance later today to take a walk down to our SMART Centre facility downstairs and see more of what's going on and what we have to offer. In the past 5 years, we've worked with 250 private sector companies, private sector partners, of which 217 were small, medium-sized enterprises. That's a big focus for us, is to get this extremely large number of small, medium-sized enterprises that drive our economy to help them innovate. We've worked on 294 projects that generated 265 new or improved products and/or processes, while engaging 114 faculty members from the college and hiring 423 co-op students. Today we're excited to have partnered with Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst from Toronto Metropolitan University, which I'll have Anita come up in a few minutes and talk about them. Today our goal is to hopefully inform, educate, and let you all walk away with something you can take back to your companies or your groups or share that can help you advance and expand. The schedule will be open. We're going to have question and answer periods. Everyone will hopefully be able to not feel afraid to put their hand up and ask some questions. It's the goal of today, to be informative and interactive. And yeah, we're going to have a great day and hopefully share some knowledge and make some connections and have a good day. I'd take the opportunity now to invite Anita, who is the Manager of Training Programs and Partnerships with Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome everyone. My name is Anita Shretland, as Jeff mentioned, and I'm here representing Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst. We're honored to be here today alongside our partners, Conestoga College. I'm very much looking forward to the day and thrilled to have you all joining us. It's a great crowd to see this early in the morning. By the size of our audience here, it's clear that the topics of the day, AI and cybersecurity, resonate strongly. As new technologies are increasingly becoming integrated into all aspects of operations and your organizations, understanding the challenges, the risks, and opportunities around them is so important. Just a little bit about who we are. The Catalyst, as we like to call ourselves, is a not-for-profit organization owned and operated by Toronto Metropolitan University. We like to call ourselves a National Centre for Training, Innovation, and Collaboration in Cybersecurity. What this means is we do all things cybersecurity right across the country and internationally. Our focus is on skills development, corporate training, and driving innovative solutions to cybersecurity challenges. We have a table over there with the banner. Feel free to pass by at lunch to find out more or to speak to any one of us wearing this pin here throughout the day. Over the course of today, on the cybersecurity side of the house, we'll be showcasing some made in Canada cybersecurity innovations, as well as walking through a cyber attack in a plenary tabletop exercise. We're also offering one-on-one consultations with our senior cybersecurity advisor. These are fully funded by the Ontario government, and you can book them at our table. They'll be virtual at a later time. We have a rich agenda today with some amazing speakers. I'd like to take a moment to, in advance, thank our speakers for being here today. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to share your expertise and your perspectives with us. I'd like to thank our friends at Conestoga for inviting us to join us here today. And to all of you, thank you for being here. Our hope is that today is full of thoughtful discussions, meaningful insights, and strong connections. Thank you.
So for our first topic today, we're going to bring up Deshant Puri, who is one of our senior researchers here at the SMART Centre. Deshant has a background in research project management, digital transformation, and engineering. He holds a mechanical engineering degree and certification in project management. Deshant has worked on several successful research and system implementation projects in his previous roles, as well as at the college, including manufacturing and software. So welcome, Deshant, and thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Let's see if we know what we're doing. All right, sweet. I hope I am audible all the way at the back. Thanks, Jeff, for the introduction. My name is Deshant, one of the senior researchers at the SMART Centre. Kind of want to bring everyone's attention. I know it's too early in the morning. The coffees are kicking in. Let's talk about what everybody likes to talk about, spreadsheets. Not necessarily, but what data can do for us, right? Not every single spreadsheet is created equal. Some of these spreadsheets are better than the others. Some of these spreadsheets, some of these data will definitely be better than the others. And as somebody who's running a business, why should you care, right? Understanding why there is a difference between the data that one person collects or one organization collects and the difference between the next one. Want to keep it kind of light and breezy throughout this conversation. If anybody has any thoughts, feel free to raise your hand, have a chat about this. So, what big data, you must have heard this term being thrown around quite a bit, and people like to talk about data being the new oil. because a lot of business decisions, a lot of smart decisions that need to be made are now based on data collected over the years. I was having a chat with an organization which is local to Canada, and actually local to the region, which was planning to buy or kind of merge into another organization that makes these IoT devices. The question that they brought up was, why do we need to buy another company that is pretty much buying IoT devices from China, throwing them in different vehicles? What difference does it make if I can just go to China, buy a GPS-enabled device, plug them into the cars, and it essentially does the same thing? What you are buying into when you are either merging with these organizations or buying out these existing companies is not just the hardware side of things. It's the data that comes with it. Everybody remembers when Google bought Motorola. It's been quite a while, and then they kept the company for, I would say, like a couple of years, and then sold it to somebody else, right? Lenovo bought out everything, but what did Google keep? They kept all the patents. They kept all the old research that they had done. So basically, a massive data set for not a lot of money, right? So if you look at it, data these days has kind of become the new oil. Companies that want to make new, smarter decisions, even if it's not for AI, right? I think for a lot of times people want to kind of link the existence of these large spreadsheets and making smart decisions, whether it's for artificial intelligence, machine learning. It's not necessarily that. Even if you want to make better smart business decisions, you have to have data to go with it. There's a very common saying that gets thrown around these days. If you don't have data to back up, it's basically not fact. It's just your opinion. Because if you don't have data to back things up, where is this information coming from, right? So always keep that in mind. Bad business decisions, bad data quality is costing businesses a lot. Just alone in the US economy, it's about $3 trillion a year where bad decisions are made based on bad data quality, and thus the businesses suffer. So we talk about good data, good quality data. What does this essentially mean? What is good quality data? What are some of the characteristics of it? So it has to be accurate, right? I can create a spreadsheet with 50,000 entries, but what if all of them are wrong? What if 25% of that is wrong? What if 50% of that is wrong? So just as an example, I was trying to kind of create a spreadsheet or kind of create a new data set, try to understand what to eat, what not to eat based on my dietary restrictions. I thought the easiest way to do this would be just go on ChatGPT, ask it to create essentially a list of things that I usually eat, give it some information, and ask it to break down the nutritional value of all of these individually. I can assure you, just by doing a quick audit of what data was produced, I would say 30 to 40% of it was incorrect. According to that, some of the things that did not have gluten had gluten in it. Some of the things that were low fat were high fat. So again, making sure that the accuracy of your data before you start making these decisions is there. And for that, you have to do some sort of data audit. We'll step into how to create a good data set in the next couple of slides. You also have to make sure that every single data point that you have as a requirement is complete and there is nothing missing. Having a data review not only gives you an idea of what exists in your data set, but also gives you a very clear idea of what is missing. So it's a very common saying, like people, like motivational speakers specifically, they would always point out, if you don't know what you're missing, there is no way to fill that gap. So same thing with a large data set as well. Look at what your data set currently has, what your data set is missing, and then go out and source this information, right? Identify what is missing, complete that. Data should be consistent. It should always have the same data points that you're looking at so that it forms a proper data set. And data exists everywhere, right? Like we often talk about organizations collecting information over a large period of time. That is a data set. But what you do with it, how you cleanse it, how you keep it consistent, how you keep adding things that are missing is a key characteristic. Data should arrive timely. So every time a new data point is collected, you make sure that you're utilizing that data the way it should be. And it should be relevant. I live in Kitchener. I don't necessarily, unless I am traveling, I don't care about what the weather is like in California. It's only going to make me jealous. So making sure that your data is accurate, complete, consistent, timely, and relevant is very important before you start making any business decisions. Your data at the start of making decisions completely defines what your decisions are going to be. Ask yourself, do you have the right data set? Does this data set and the information that you have collected is good for your business objectives or not? From my time at working in the manufacturing industry, every single component, not every single component, but there is like an end of the line inspection, there is an in-process inspection. There are different points where the inspection is done. This data can be used for, are my parts good or not? Are my parts good enough to ship or not? But this data set can also be used for ensuring that you are creating a predictive maintenance schedule where you would understand that my tooling maybe gives me, like, as an example, 10,000 units of something produced, and then I have to change my tooling. How do you get to that decision? Because your data is aligned to the decisions that you are trying to make. It's specific to your business, right? Do not run behind a large data set if there is not enough accuracy in it. Quality will always trump quantity. Have a large data set, it's great, as long as your data is accurate, as long as your data quality is high, and as long as it stays relevant. So quality over quantity to start making decisions is great. Over a period of time, in certain cases, you will have enough time to keep gathering more information, thus getting it to a point where you are creating the smarter decisions that you are after. Consider whether your data is accessible or not. If you are in a domain where public data is available, create that data set, share that data set, it's very important. A lot of times when we start working with different industry partners and clients, the first thing we look at when they are making some decision, whether it's based on AI or machine learning or not, the first thing that we want to do is their publicly available data set or not. We have built solutions on publicly available data set. Making data that's not proprietary to your organization as something that is public helps everyone together. Think about the supply chain, right? Like if and we'll step into this example as well, of how understanding of what traffic is like in a specific area helps supply chain massively. At this point, all of us with a cell phone and a GPS antenna, which is everyone here, is feeding back onto Google Maps. Like the way traffic functions on Google is how many cell phones are basically in one area, and that's how the decisions are made. So making data accessible is also very important. It uplifts everyone together. So I am at a point where I have this giant spreadsheet with 50,000 entries, which may be all collected over a different duration. Consider this as your raw data. Consider this as a point where you are just beginning to understand what your data set has to offer. This raw data set should all be compiled and collected in either a single database. Spreadsheet is a database, any system that you want to use. Once this collection is completed, structure your data to make sure you are looking at the data points that are important to your decisions. Like I said, when you are doing an end-of-the-line inspection, it probably is too late for a component to give you some information on what predictive maintenance cycle do you want to make on your machine, right? Take a step back. Look at the data that is collected during the inline inspection. So as soon as parts fall off the machine, do an inspection there. Make sure you are picking up the data points that you want to look at. This actually being at a point where you are structuring your data and you have a large data set is a very good problem to have. I would rather have high quality data and a lot of data so that I can pick and choose rather than, like either creating synthetic data or looking at trends and making a data set according to that. You also have to step into data validation, right? Make sure the data that you're collecting is valid, it's accurate, it is showing the real picture, and it's not just created because you want to fill some blank spreadsheets. Once this is done, you are at a point, you have a nice, well-structured, beautiful spreadsheet, beautiful data set, it's all cleansed, there is no fluff in it, you don't have anything that's missing, you don't have any inaccurate information. This is the point where you start doing your analysis. A lot of times where organizations, when they see a data set and they have some information on them, the first thing that they want to see is, yes, I have raw data, let's straight jump into the analysis side and not go through the steps before this. It takes time. Making smart, correct decision does take time. When you have the advantage of having a large collective data set, use it to your advantage, right? Spend the time that is needed before you jump into the analysis and start making decisions. We'll step into what is the difference between data and information as well. There's a massive difference the way I look at it, and I hope I can convey that to everyone else here in the room as well. Turn information into knowledge, which in turn gives you intelligent decisions. So going back a step, we start at having raw data. Once the collection is done, everything is put together, you structure your data properly, you validate your data set. Here we are with a cleansed data set where we can start doing our analysis, turn this analysis into information into knowledge, and then knowledge will give you some intelligent decisions. Why do we want to make intelligent decisions? Kind of a rhetorical question, but let's go over that as well. Gives you a competitive advantage. A lot of organizations might be at a point where they are either running into making decisions with the limited data set that they have, or worse, they don't have the luxury to go over the collected data at all. In manufacturing, in software, in many business cases, it will help you reduce your overall cost because you don't have to go back and try different things. You have analyzed your data the way it should. You are also going to reduce your downtime. There is no repetition. You make the right decision once, you stick to it, and then you follow through. Comparatively, if you are making a single decision that is correct, you are reducing your time, you're making better and faster decisions. Because you're not throwing spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks, right? You are making something that's on a dartboard and you're hitting the points that you want to. And at the end of the day, what we are all after is customer satisfaction. People are happy, people are sticking to your product, people are sticking to the solutions that you're offering them, and that means money. Money means the lights are on. Let's talk about the fun stuff. The weather is great, not that great today, was great the day before. Favorite time of the season, especially if you live in Kitchener, the season of construction. There's a reason people who are local would know the joke about Weber Street. I often joke about the same thing as well. I think about my own personal growth as Weber Street as well. You always keep improving, even if you don't need improvement. You're always under construction. I've lived in Kitchener for 12 years. I have never seen Weber Street not being under construction for the last 12 years. Someplace, somewhere, they do find a way to improve Weber Street. Right now, this is right across from the Volkswagen dealership. So I don't know. I was there like a few months ago, was perfectly fine. I don't know what they're doing, but it's okay. Although it might not seem like it, the city of Kitchener has a very good data set with them on how and where to start doing construction. This, again, is a public data set. If you go on the city's website, there is so much information. There is so much information. The city is great when it comes to collecting data. whether that data is from a perspective of what are the traffic times like, whether it's like population density, tree density, road densities, everything. The data set on the city's website is great. However, there is still room for improvement. So when we are traveling, this is pretty much what we see, right? It's an interactive traffic map. You go on Google, you zoom in, zoom out, you see where the traffic is, you make your own decisions based on that, right? Every time I have to go to Toronto or I have to put my car on 401, the first thing that I do is like, which sections of 401 can I avoid, right? So this is where we make our decisions from. This is information, right? But this is what feeds the background, right? Number of cells, where the construction is, where most of the people are. And that's the question that I want to raise here. Which one would you rather look at, right? Which one will help you make quicker and faster decisions? At the end of the day, the decisions that you make need to be fed from this raw data. Get your raw data right, and that will give you the opportunity to make correct, informed decisions. So the data set that we saw, like this nice looking spreadsheet, what does this information have? So essentially, it's a detailed snapshot of how traffic flows through the city at different times of the day. There are certain sections of the city that cannot be closed during work hours, like during rush hours. Imagine if King Street was closed, right? Would it be painful? Absolutely, right? So most of the time when any of the street painting needs to be done, it's usually done late in the evening. It's done during weekdays because King Street essentially is the emptiest during that time. How did we come to that decision? Again, going back to this nice looking spreadsheet. Although there is a lot of information here, the way it's broken down, and this is just an example, the way it's broken down is like there are road segments and intersection names, so we know what area of the city we are looking at. We are looking at the date and time this information was captured. So in this data set, there would be, let's say, King and Ontario, and there is going to be 15 different entries or 24 different entries broken down to every single hour of the day and a date when this was captured. If we go to Waterloo, right, like during the summer when everybody either is out of school or in their co-ops, the King and Phillip intersection is, or the University and Phillip intersection is much quieter, right? So you also want your trends over a specific period of time if you want to make even more informed decisions with better understanding of them. Vehicle counts per direction, daily traffic volumes. And if you look at this, you are like, oh, that's quite a bit of data. There are like 5,000 entries to it, but it's not enough. It's never enough, right? You have to get to a point where 5,000 entries, 10,000 entries do not seem enough because you want to collect as much data as possible over a specific period of time where you are making the correct decisions. So if you think about it, with 5,000 entries of what City of Kitchener has, and this is just the data collected over the last year, do you still think the city is doing a good job at managing how traffic flows during constructions? I know I don't, because there is specifically room for improvement. And this is not me complaining about how City of Kitchener doesn't manage traffic well. I think they do a pretty good job, but is there room for improvement? Absolutely there is. And we'll see why, So if you see, like, this is another way of visualizing how the data looks. This is over a period of like 10, 20 years of how different things have happened. What is the daily average of distance traveled by individuals? How many roundabouts are there? How many local streets are there? How many collectors? And you are able to visualize data in multiple different ways. What makes sense to your business case. If somebody showed me this and somebody said, okay, based on this line graph, decide what day of, or what year was the easiest to travel around the city? Doesn't make sense to my business case, right? I want to drive from Kitchener to Cambridge today. What was historic over a period of 20 years doesn't make sense right now. So when you have a data set that you can break it down to, this is what I kind of want everyone to understand is you are sure, you are looking at what your data set has, but you also want to identify what your data set is missing. If you know what your data set is missing, you can direct your resources and you can divert your resources in such a way that you are collecting the missing data points. From the spreadsheet that we had earlier, how do we make improvements to our processes is filling these gaps. Many times when you're doing any machine learning systems, when you're making a predictive system, you look at the data points that are missing. Why? Because this is what makes or breaks your system. So identify what your key missing data points are, divert your resources, make sure that we are capturing some of these as well, and making sure that we are open to the idea that a decision made with one data set versus a decision made with a complete data set is going to make a massive difference. So again, going back, we look at a nice looking spreadsheet that has a lot of information, but it also has some missing information. We identify what the data set has to offer, make our decision based on that, and then look at what data points are missing so that we can go back and fill these gaps to make smarter, better, more accurate decisions. What does the city use this data set for? They prioritize road repairs and upgrades, decide where to install traffic sensors and cameras. Again, how do we make this decision? We make this decision by understanding what information is missing. So for example, if anybody lives for those who live in Kitchener and if you live anywhere near Fisher, Hallman, and Ottawa, that intersection, this summer is the first time they don't have any construction going. They had construction there for the last 5 years consistently. They were fixing something or the other. Great. The intersection looks great now, but now that the city would be able to break it down from a point where they know what intersections have the least amount of data, they can go and install their traffic sensors there. Identify high traffic area to ease of congestion, and create policies, decisions of where bike lanes and speed zones need to be changed. All this information also comes from another data set of how many people do short distance travel, long distance travel, so on and so forth. Why does it matter? Right? The city can make these decisions on a whim. They can also just make these decisions if they want it. At the end of the day, construction is needed. At the end of the day, people still need to go to work. People will find different ways of traveling. However, at the end of the day, the city's job is to make sure everybody's travel is safe, everybody's travel is convenient. So making decisions to help reduce traffic and commute times, even during high construction times. So as soon as summer hits, make sure people are taking the right routes. Make sure that the infrastructure and the investments that need to happen in the infrastructure are done at the right spot, and it's not done outside the city where nobody is traveling to. It helps reduce waste because city is focusing on the right areas and solving the problems that actually need to be solved. Build trust in analytics and data-driven governance because there is backup. There is always backup. Show me where these decisions were made and why these decisions were made as well. So at the end of this, we're just kind of keeping some thoughts in our mind. Organizations that want to create business decisions based on large data set volumes, always remember it's garbage in, garbage out. What you feed into your systems, the data that you utilize for making these decisions is going to govern what output you get. Quality of data is everyone's responsibility when you are building these systems. When you're building an infrastructure to collect this data, make sure this information is transferred over to everyone. The business case is well understood. Why do we need the data set to begin with? And what decisions will you improve today based on the understanding that we have on requirement of data sets now? So giving a quick thought about the last, I don't know how, like 10, 15 minutes that I've been going for, what decisions are you making right now based on unclear data, right? How can you make sure that once you have a corrected data set, what improvements can be made and how is it going to affect your business? Which data quality issues cost your team the most time? Is it just the unavailability of data? In many cases, the ideas that industry partners and organizations are trying to get to, these ideas are so novel that the data set might not exist. Again, if we go back to the flowchart that we looked at, you do have raw data. You can restructure it the way you want, as long as it's accurate, as long as it's properly validated. Where could improved data quality create a competitive advantage? Like if you are someone who's guiding people on, just as an example, on what is the right food to eat, right? If your organization, or if your mobile app or if your product gives suggestions for food, what is the competitive advantage you would see there? The wider your data set is for the nutritional information, the easier it becomes. One more thing to remember, data is not information. There's a big difference in the understanding of what is data, what is information, and what is knowledge. Raw data by itself lacks meaning. Everybody saw the snapshot of the spreadsheet. By itself, just as a spreadsheet makes very little sense to the business, makes very little difference, doesn't add as much value as it should. Information will only emerge when your data is organized and you have a way to read the data set as well. Information from data to information requires some sort of human judgment. That is where the data validation side steps in. Open to any questions, any thoughts, any comments, any questions from anyone on some of the business problems that any one of you might be facing. And if you are having trouble sourcing data sets, I'm very happy to have a conversation to look at where some of the open source data set options are there, as well as some of the other opportunities that you might have to maximize smart business decisions based on the data that you have available. Sure, go ahead.
How do you see quality of data supporting quantity of data?
So that's a very good question. So the quality of the data needs to first be validated. So there is a big process that a lot of organizations would go through that's called data auditing. And it usually happens when you collect the first set of your data that's coming in. So let's say, as an example, you are at a point where you have just started collecting data for a specific use case, and you have a duration of, let's say, over a month when you would be collecting this data. So before you get to collecting 100% of your data, you would start doing shorter audits. So there would be essentially, as an example, you would want to do an audit at, let's say, a week, then you would do an audit at week 3, and then you would do an audit at week 4. So you set checkpoints for yourself to make sure that you don't keep collecting large volume of data if it's not periodically validated for quality as well. Because imagine if you get to a point where you are at week 4 and you've done all the 30 days and then you realize it's like, oh my God, one of my sensors was feeding bad information, right? So quantity is good, but having an understanding of what quality of data set you have is equally or more important. I would rather have 1,000 entries of very accurate data to start making decisions than having 1,000,000 entries of data where 50% of my data is incorrect. Because if you look at a histogram, right, like if you're making a decision based on 50% of accurate data, yes, with 1,000 entries, your decisions might not be as good as it would be with 50,000 entries, but you still are giving yourself a 50-50 chance of making an error if you have 50% of your data incorrect. Also based on how critical your decisions are, if it's a medical application to make these decisions, we want more false positives than more false negatives. It very much depends on what your use case might be. Did I answer your question?
How do you incorporate qualitative data, so human observation, which will inform why something is happening? So the data might say something, and you make an assumption, but then you actually need to source people to tell you why that thing is happening. So, like the construction example, you're seeing a blockage, but you don't know why. Observationally, qualitatively, you can say, oh, that's just construction, or a power line is down. How can you, is there a good way to incorporate observational data in with your more structured numeric data?
Great point. It's not necessary that every single data point that you would have in your data set has to be numerical, right? So observational data is always there. So as an example, I have a habit of logging everything that I eat. So when at the end of the day, not only do I log every single point at my nutritional values, so how much fats, how much carbs, how much protein is going in my food, I also have a thing in my spreadsheet which is like, how am I feeling? It's more of like an observational. Am I full? Am I tired? How much workout did I do? Is it relational to that or not? So for example, last weekend, weather was great. I did a lot of yard work. I ate what I eat every single day, but I was much more tired. So I had a section in my log which just said, I feel more tired than usual. So, and that can be, and that's where human intervention kind of steps in, is like, why am I feeling so tired? It's like, oh yeah, because I spent swapping tires and painting the fence and doing this and doing that. And then from that point onwards, I can make smarter decisions like, okay, if I am going to put this much time in the yard, I need to be more hydrated and I need to have more protein. Right? So that's how you make decisions. So yes, by all means. That's why human intervention is really, really important. And then once you have, once you get to a point where you have enough recurrence of the same trend, then, or enough recurrences, you can kind of start making that as a trend, right? So I know every time the weather is nice, I'm going to spend time outside, especially in summer, and I'm going to be tired. So if the weather is nice, means eat more protein. So something like that. Yeah, thanks.
And in follow-up to that question, how do I know how accurate or how valuable this data is? Because we bought a set of data, and it pertained to the amount of transactions that went through a credit card machine to measure spending in our community. And then we bought a second set of data from a credit card company, and there should be a correlation between the machine that is swiping and a credit card that is swiping, and they are absolutely going in two different directions. How then, what do I do at that stage?
So if there are interesting question. So data validation by itself is a large exercise, right? Data validation doesn't happen overnight, or data validation doesn't happen, or data audit, if you will. Any sort of audit takes time, right? So if you have two different data sets or two different points where you are expecting the similar or correlated information and there is a large gap, I would, if I had the opportunity, I would go back and see how and when this data is collected, right? So just buying a data set doesn't necessarily, and in your example, it's very clear that when you buy a data set doesn't mean necessarily that you are going to get what you were expecting. I would go back and look at how this data was collected. when this data was collected, what age group this data was collected for, right? So the spending habits that I have versus the spending habit of an 18-year-old is completely different, right? So it's not just buying the data set from 2 different data points or 2 different data collection agencies should be giving you the same information just because we are looking at the credit card swipes. There are lots of things that go in the background as well, right? Like every single point of variability that is there, time of day, time of the month, time of the year, right? So I think for every one of us, the beginning of summer is where everybody spends a lot more money at Home Depot. And when it comes to the Christmas time, everybody spends a lot more time at Toys R Us, I guess, right? Just as an example. So where the data was being collected from, how much data was being collected, what were the parameters of data collection. So when you are buying these from some of the reputed data agencies, they will give you this information. And if they don't, your data set is not accurate or might not be accurate enough, right? Again, where is the data set coming from will have its own data set, right? So when we are looking at the metadata of where this information is coming from, where this information is sourced from, that should give you some of the answers. So take a step back, kind of get a bird's eye view of what is feeding that specified data set, and that will help you make smarter decisions on whether you are using the right data set to make the decisions that you want to make. So like I said, the data set by itself has a data set. So I've worked with a company at the Smart Center where we wanted to kind of get an understanding of when people charge their EV vehicles, right? So the way people charge EVs at home versus how people charge EVs at a public charging station, night and day, absolute night and day. If I am charging my vehicle at a public charging station, it's either I'm charging that because for the location of convenience, I am either at a mall where I can charge my car and just do my business and come back and the car is charged, or when I'm doing it at home, I want to do it when charging is the cheapest. So if you look at the trends, one of them would only be used during the daytime when the malls are open, and then the other data set would be everybody charging it in the evening or late at night, right? So where is your data set coming from? Like what is feeding this information as well? Any other questions? Yes, please go ahead.
That was a very insightful talk. Thank you very much. My question is about the cost of data. So for companies that are considering, weighing out the cost of buying data, data sets, and analyzing it themselves, be it through a service or an employee, and that takes time, or in the city of Brampton, they need to invest in cameras and sort of tools to acquire the data, versus the cost of making a bad decision or the risks of making bad decisions or decisions on incomplete data. Can you help me understand better how you might navigate the risk, or what would you advise in that case?
So I usually do mic drops. It's the criticality of what this data set actually means, right? So the example that I was giving is like if it's a medical use case and you're making decisions based on trends, the data set that you have, you want to rather have a false positive over a false negative. The other thing is how long do you have to make these decisions, right? There are surveyors, of course, like every city has its own surveyors that are collecting data over a period of time. And then there are, in certain cases, organizations want the control of what exact data points they want to collect. So if it's the city that is making these decisions, and the other thing that you also have to understand, and I talk to a lot of people about this, is like a data set collected once is not one and done, right? You keep adding to that data set. Yes, you have made a decision right now, but is this decision final? Do you have room for improvement or not? Right? That's the whole advantage of having data sets and having information that you can always keep making changes. Be like Weber Street, right? Make a Weber Street in Brampton. Just never stop construction. So what I would suggest in that case is depending again on the criticality of this. So let's say if there is, as an example, there's one intersection in the city that is prone to accidents, right? Pretty critical use case, right? I want to make sure why these accidents are happening. Is the speed limit too high? Are there not enough traffic lights, right? Is the duration of the traffic light when the light is red is too short? Is it too long? What have you? So collecting this data set in terms of criticality, like I would start making smaller decisions that you can implement to kind of mitigate some of these risks. And as these decisions are being implemented, we, in parallel, would, and this is completely wishful thinking. I know this is not how cities can work, but and in an ideal situation, you make a small decision, kind of reduce that risk, and then in parallel would have a way of understanding what data points I need, and these data points can be collected, whether these are through surveys, whether these are through sensors, whether these are through traffic cams, whatever, right? And then making decisions and improving those decisions is what anyone should be doing, whether it's the city or an organization, as a matter of fact. That's the advantage of having a data set as a spreadsheet, right? Like I can always go back and just refresh my trends and see have things changed. And if things are working that they should, and if you have made good enough decisions from the get-go, you can keep improving on that. And if it's going the completely opposite direction, you're like, okay, at least I have a point where I can always revert back to, and then stick to that point, and then try a different approach. I will be around for the rest of the day. I sit here, table 1. Come talk to us if you have any questions or thoughts.
Thank you, Dushyant.